On Monday morning, October 20th, 2025, millions on the U.S. East Coast woke up to a world that felt strangely broken. The familiar buzz of notifications was missing, and the digital hum that usually greeted the start of the day had gone eerily silent. Phones were met with digital silence, news apps wouldn't load, banking apps spun endlessly, and even ordering coffee was impossible. For many, the first sign of trouble was a simple spinning wheel, refusing to resolve. It wasn't just a few services, it felt as if a huge chunk of the internet had simply vanished. Websites that people relied on daily were suddenly unreachable, leaving users bewildered and anxious. This wasn't a Wi-Fi issue or a local outage, it was a systemic failure on a massive scale. IT teams scrambled to diagnose the problem, but the scope was unprecedented. Suddenly, the services we rely on for communication, commerce, and logistics were inaccessible. Offices sat idle, cafes filled with frustrated customers, and businesses ground to a halt. Social media feeds went dark, e-commerce sites froze, and ride-sharing apps failed, turning daily routines into puzzles. Even simple tasks, like checking the weather or sending a message, became impossible. The internet, our ever-present utility, had taken an unscheduled holiday. For the first time in years, people were forced to confront just how much of their lives depended on invisible networks. The confusion rippled across the globe, but the East Coast's morning was hit hardest. In cities and suburbs alike, frustration and uncertainty spread as people searched for answers. The culprit? A technical fault deep within Amazon Web Services, AWS. This cloud giant powers much of the modern web, and its failure sent shockwaves through the digital world. This single point of failure revealed just how fragile our digital ecosystem is when one of its pillars falters. The outage was a stark reminder of the interconnectedness and vulnerability of our online lives. Most users never think about where their apps live, they just expect them to work. The invisible infrastructure behind our screens is rarely considered until it stops working. But the outage exposed the reality. Today's internet is highly concentrated, and a problem in one corner can disrupt the entire digital landscape. As the world scrambled to adapt, one thing became clear: our digital dependence is deeper than we ever imagined. The engine behind your digital life. AWS is Amazon's most profitable division and the dominant force in cloud computing. Instead of building their own servers, companies, from startups to giants, rent computing power and storage from Amazon. This lets them scale fast, without huge upfront costs. AWS began as Amazon's way to handle its own e-commerce traffic, but soon, they realized they could rent out their excess capacity. Launched in 2006, AWS now underpins a staggering portion of the modern internet. Its services go far beyond storage: virtual servers, massive databases, machine learning tools, and more. When you use Netflix, Airbnb, or Slack, you're interacting with AWS. This reliance is why an AWS outage has such a profound impact. Companies have outsourced their core infrastructure to Amazon, creating a single point of failure. When AWS stumbles, thousands of companies and millions of users feel it instantly. The glitch in the machine, an unexpected disruption that rippled through the digital world, began quietly, but its effects were anything but subtle. So, what exactly went wrong on Monday morning, leaving offices eerily silent and workers scrambling for answers? The root cause wasn't a power outage or a severed cable, as many first suspected, but a critical error deep within the domain name system, or DNS. Think of DNS as the internet's phone book, a vital service that translates easy-to-remember website names into the numerical addresses computers use to find each other. On that Monday, AWS's own DNS services failed spectacularly, with the outage hitting DynamoDB especially hard, a key database relied on by thousands of companies worldwide. The data itself remained safe and untouched, but apps and services simply couldn't locate it, like having a full address book, but forgetting every phone number inside. This triggered a cascading failure. Airlines, banks, and countless other organizations suddenly found themselves unable to access critical information. Even social media platforms and business meetings ground to a halt, as users everywhere faced error messages and lost connections. The outage wasn't the work of hackers or a cyberattack, but was most likely caused by a flawed software update or a misconfiguration within AWS's own systems. Cybersecurity experts quickly ruled out any malicious activity, focusing instead on the technical missteps that led to the breakdown. The event was a stark reminder that even a small internal error in a system as vast and complex as AWS can set off a chain reaction with enormous, far-reaching consequences. Many seemingly unrelated services failed at once, all because they depended on the same hidden infrastructure that quietly powers the modern world. For a brief moment, the internet lost both its memory and its ability to function, reminding us just how interconnected and fragile our digital lives truly are. A domino effect, how one outage halted daily routines. It was a stark reminder of how dependent we are on technology for our everyday activities. The AWS outage hit hardest during the East Coast's busy morning. As people were starting their day, the disruption was felt almost immediately. Coffee apps failed, leading to long lines and confusion at cafes. Baristas struggled to keep up with orders, and customers were left frustrated without their morning caffeine fix. Financial tools like mobile banking and trading platforms became inaccessible, causing frustration and unease. People couldn't check their balances or make trades, leading to a sense of financial insecurity. E-commerce sites lost sales, and internal communication tools like Slack went down, disrupting remote work. Online shoppers were unable to make purchases, and office workers struggled to communicate. Travel was thrown into chaos. Airline apps failed, ride-sharing services became unreliable, and airport confusion soared. Travelers were left stranded, unable to book rides or check flight statuses. Even smart home devices like Alexa stopped working, unable to connect to the cloud. Homes that relied on smart technology were suddenly less functional. The outage showed that the cloud is the foundation for real-world services, not just an abstract concept. It highlighted the critical role cloud computing plays in our daily lives. A problem in an Amazon data center in Virginia could prevent someone in New York from ordering a taxi or checking a bank balance. The geographical distance didn't matter. The impact was felt everywhere. The cascade of failures revealed just how interconnected and vulnerable our digital lives are. One failure can trigger a series of disruptions across various services. When the first domino fell, the chain reaction rippled through nearly every aspect of daily life. It was a powerful illustration of our reliance on technology. What happens in the cloud doesn't stay in the cloud. The effects are felt in the real world, impacting our daily routines and activities. When a major outage hits, many fear a cyber attack. But this time, experts quickly confirmed it was an internal technical fault, not sabotage. No signs of hacking or denial of service attacks. Just a mundane, yet disruptive error. In hyperscale systems like AWS, even a tiny misconfiguration can trigger massive failures. The distinction matters. This wasn't a battle with hackers, but a reminder of the fragility of complex systems. The outage wasn't a security breach, but a glimpse into the operational challenges of running the world's digital backbone. The real threat isn't always from outside. It's the complexity and interconnectedness of the infrastructure itself. Major digital outages are becoming more common, exposing the risks of our centralized infrastructure. In July 2024, a faulty CrowdStrike software update crashed Windows computers worldwide, grounding flights and disrupting hospitals. AT&T's network failures left millions without service, hitting gig workers especially hard. Even AWS has had previous outages, like the one in 2021 that caused widespread problems. These incidents show how a single bug or network failure can have global consequences. Experts note it's remarkable these systems don't fail more often, given their scale. Each blackout is a warning about the vulnerabilities in our interconnected digital world. The internet was meant to be decentralized and resilient, but today, it's highly centralized in the hands of a few cloud giants. AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud host a huge share of the world's digital infrastructure. This centralization brings efficiency, but also systemic risk. A single failure can disrupt thousands of services. The economic advantages of cloud platforms are irresistible, but they create a shared fate. When AWS falters, everyone feels it. Even services with their own redundancies are ultimately dependent on the underlying platform. The debate over centralization versus resilience is intensifying. Some advocate for multi-cloud strategies, but these are complex and costly. For now, our digital world remains in the hands of a few powerful companies. Once Amazon identified the DNS issue, engineers launched a high-stakes effort to restore service. Fixing the root cause was just the first step. Recovery in a global system is never instant. Caching issues meant many systems still held onto old, incorrect DNS info, slowing the return to normal. Amazon advised customers to clear their caches to speed up recovery. Even after the fix, ripple effects lingered as thousands of apps tried to reconnect at once. Amazon's engineers managed the recovery carefully, restoring capacity in stages. Throughout, Amazon provided regular updates to customers, explaining the situation and progress. Communication was critical for developers and IT teams managing their own systems. The road to full recovery was a methodical digital cleanup after the storm. Every major outage is a painful lesson for the tech industry. The AWS failure forces companies to rethink putting all their eggs in one basket. Multi-cloud and hybrid strategies can create redundancy, but true resilience is a systemic challenge. Outages keep happening despite massive investments in reliability, showing the difficulty of managing such complex systems. As dependence on cloud platforms grows, so does the need for fault-tolerant designs and better contingency planning. Clearer communication with the public during outages is essential. The future may see renewed interest in decentralized technologies, but for now, diversification and resilience are key. The morning the internet stood still should be a blueprint for building a more robust digital world.